Okay, sorry guys. So, back. I'm going to do one more out of this book tonight. Chapter 1, Long-Term Events, Learning from History to Prevent Future Deja Vu. And I think, I think I'm going to just do short videos on each of the different topics in this chapter. So, this one's going to be very short. It's going to be just the beginning of the chapter and then into the pandemics, and then I'm going to stop it. And then it goes to famine, economic collapse, freak occurrences, New Madrid earthquake, Yellowstone caldera, electromagnetic pulse, EMP, war and terrorism, and that's the end of the chapter. So, here we go. It has been 112 days since the lights went out and didn't come back on. I know this because the last thing I do every night, after checking all the locks one more time, is cross off the day on the calendar. 4 months ago, had anyone told me a major disaster was right around the corner, I'd have snorted at them for being doom and gloom. I've been meaning to start this journal for months now. I kept putting it off because there was always so much to do, and by sundown, I'm ready to just collapse into bed. But, while I make no promises to update this thing every day, I do want there to be some sort of record, some documentation, of what we've endured so far and will continue to experience as the days progress. Heh, who knows? Maybe decades from now, if the country ever gets back on its feet, they'll talk about this journal in schools across the land. 4 months ago, I could take a hot shower 3 times a day if I wanted. Today, I bathe once a week at most, in tepid water that 3 others have already used. 16 weeks ago, I had my choice of any number of restaurants for dinner. Today, we eat whatever we can find, grow, hunt, or trap. 112 days ago, I was living the American dream. Today, I'm living a nightmare. Welcome to the end of the world. It's not as far-fetched as what you may think. When we talk about long-term events, we're referring to catastrophes that effectively bring society to a screeching halt, along with all of the associated chaos and confusion one would expect. Tornadoes and hurricanes, while certainly disastrous in their own rights, don't bring with them quite the level of societal collapse we're looking at here. Thankfully, these events don't happen very often, but when they do, it takes a long time to return to some semblance of normalcy. To better illustrate the point, let's start by taking a look at some historical examples. Pandemics. Well, 2020, that was a plandemic. Pandemics are epidemics that cross national or international boundaries and affect great numbers of people. Again, plandemic 2020. In other words, a whole lot of people living in a wide area have all been infected with the same disease. This isn't just a case of the sniffles running rampant through a school district. For many people, the first thing that comes to mind when discussing pandemics is the Black Death, sometimes called the Black Plague. While it is impossible to cite an exact death toll, historians believe the Black Death claimed up to 200 million lives from roughly 1347 to 1350. In just 3 years, it decimated up to 60% of the entire population of Europe. This pandemic of the bubonic plague originated in or near China and spread over the Silk Road to Europe. Fleas, carried on the backs of rats that infested all the merchant ships, helped spread the disease everywhere they went. Take a moment and let those numbers sink in a bit. About 200 million people perished as a result of that disease. To put that into perspective, in 2012, the estimated population of the United States was roughly 314 million people. Can you even imagine what life would be like if 2/3 of the population all died within a few years? How long do you think it would take for life to return to anything close to normal? According to some experts, it took Europe about 150 years to get back on its feet. A more recent example is the flu pandemic that occurred in 1918 and 1919 during World War I, which I've also done a little bit of research, and there's question as to whether or not that was introduced on purpose. I don't know. I'm not saying. I said there's question. This was the first major outbreak of the H1N1 flu virus. It is sometimes referred to as the Spanish flu, only because of the distorted news reports back then. Government censors worked hard to keep wartime morale up by not allowing much negative news to hit the airwaves. I know that would never happen today. So, as the early reports came in and about the spread of the deadly flu in the countries at war, these censors did what they could to keep it hushed up. Spain, however, was neutral during the war and didn't bother keeping things quiet. The result was that the news reports seemed to indicate Spain was being hit harder by this flu than the rest of the world, hence the name Spanish flu. What was particularly chilling about this flu outbreak was how it targeted healthy segments of the population. The deaths were not centered among the elderly, the infirm, and the children. Rather, it was the strapping young adults who were the hardest hit. That's one of the reasons why they've questioned it. This was due to how the flu virus worked by causing what's called the cytokine storm in the body. Essentially, the virus would send the patient's immune system into overdrive. The healthier the patient was at the onset, the more powerful the body's immune response, resulting in a cytokine storm of such force that it killed the patient. This flu pandemic hit just about every corner of the planet. Then again, they wouldn't have known that back then. While numbers are still sketchy, estimated death tolls range from 50 to 100 million. No matter how you look at it, that's a lot of dead bodies, but bear in mind that most of them perished within a 9-month period. Could something like that happen today? I mean, with all our modern medical knowledge and advanced technology, surely the powers that be would act quickly to stop the infectious disease before it got out of control, right? Think about this, though. HIV, AIDS has been around since 1981, and they still haven't found a cure for it. Well, I have my beliefs about that disease, but we're not going to get into that on this video. It's just not going to happen. Oh, and so that's the end of the pandemic part. So I'm going to call it good on that one, and I'm not going to get into what I was talking about because that's just not a topic for right now. The next one is on famine. It's going to be a short little video. I might actually just go through and do these little subheadings tonight as well. I do need to get into some other stuff, but I'm going to be working overtime to get this information out there for you guys, because it is so imperative that you guys have this information. And I have so much information to share, and I feel so little time to do it in. So, and I don't mean in a day, I mean between now and the time that all hell breaks loose, guys. We don't have much time left. We just don't. And it's not good. But I'm going to be trying to reach out to you guys and do your research. It's so important. Get those materials. Get out there. Get a graphing notebook, because that's what my grid thing is. It's a graphing notebook. Pick one up. They're only a couple dollars, maybe 3 or 4 at the most. Go pick one up, okay? Start gridding out your homestead, even if it's a tiny one. Remember the backyard homestead. Go back and watch those videos. In that book, remember, it says on the back of that book, you can create a homestead on a 1/4 acre of land and grow so much food and raise so much food. No.
Cinnamon doing that, not him.
Sorry, but I wouldn't do that normally, but she's in heat, so I'm trying to keep him away from her. So I was like, no. Alright, anyway. Yeah, there's just, 2,500 pounds of vegetables, I think it was, or 2,200 pounds. I think it was like 800 pounds of pork, or 200 or 300 pounds of pork. There's just so much. So go back and watch those videos. And I know it's a lot of information, but I did get all of that book done on here. And just go back and look in my playlist, Backyard Homestead, because that's where those videos are. So just do your research, guys. Get a graphing notebook. with graph paper, grid out your homestead. You don't have to have a lot of space. I just mapped out our entire homestead in a very small area behind the barn. And I don't think any of it's going to take up an acre except for the area that we need for the goats and the feeder pigs. That's it. I don't think any of it's going to take up an acre, and we're going to be growing so much food out there that we're going to be able to sell some of it on the farm stand. We're going to be able to share with our church, our outreach for the community, and with other people. The chickens for the eggs, we're going to have the extra eggs. We're going to be able to share those. We're going to be able to sell those. So, there's so much you can do. Yes, it takes a lot of work, but it is so well worth it. Alright, I'm going to get off from here and get this video up there, and I will see you guys in a few on the next video. Do your research. I cannot stress that enough. Like and share the videos. Make sure you always check your subscriptions. Hit the notification bell. Click on all to make sure you get all the notifications. And once again, remember to do your research. I will see you guys in a bit. Bye, guys.